Okay, now I'm just a little bit east of the chicken coop, and this is one of the pussy willows that I planted last fall. I planted 4 of them, and all 4 of them seem to have made it all right and are grown just fine. Um, Here's the strawberry beds again. I made sure I pinched off all the blooms this year when I first planted them because I wanted them to send out runners, and they have rewarded me by sending out lots of runners. These are not green beans, they're purple beans, but they're for fresh eating. Then I planted sunflowers in the middle of that piece of trellis or panel that we had bent over to use for a little dog pen for Bear when I first got him, and that didn't work so well, so I just brought it out here and turned it on its end and made a little trellis. The nasturtiums were supposed to climb up it, but they're not seeming to climb much, but the sunflowers seem to like it. I've got some more beans on the other side. They're tiger's eye, and they're for dried beans. I do better with stuff that doesn't have a critical time for picking. This is the tunnel, and I've got at least 3 different types of gourds growing. The ones on the far left or far right are ball loofahs. I thought that the ones here on the rest of it were all the same, but they don't seem to be growing the same. So I don't remember what's what. I know I planted some dinosaur gourds, but I don't know whether that's the small ones in the middle or whether it's these big ones on the end. And then there's some nasturtiums along the outside which seem to be growing, and I see a few of them want to bloom, but not very many. I put some sunflowers every place I could find a bare spot, and then some of them even came up without being planted. So when the volunteer ones came up in a place that I didn't mind, I just left them, and that's one of them. And we'll go back to the trellis. But all of these marigolds I started from seed, and the beans growing up the side of the bench it's a mixture. It's 2 different. I just took the seeds from 2 different kinds of hyacinth beans and just mixed them together and planted them all. So we should have lots of different kinds. These are my petunias. I did buy those. And this is where the hyacinths were earlier this spring. There's another volunteer sunflower. And that's my little herb bed that I hadn't really planned on being an herb bed, but then I planted stuff in it, and after I planted it, I found out that they were perennials. The stuff on the right here with the yellow flowers is really not supposed to be a perennial. It's an annual. It's a curry plant. And then the little bushy green stuff in the middle is chamomile that I started from seed earlier this spring. I don't think it's a perennial, but the chives have been moved from my house to Andy's house to now out here, and I had not realized that chives was a perennial. The stuff in the back here with the little yellow flowers and the pretty leaves, that's rue. I don't know what to use it for, but it's pretty. I like the leaves. The sage is awesome stuff, and I see I've got weeds I need to pick out of there, and the bees just absolutely love it. I did put some bee balm down here in between, and it may not have enough room, so I may have to move it, but I've got it 2 or 3 other places. So if we go back, I'm now standing looking north again, and here's the raspberry trellis. Oh, those are 3 hazelnut bushes, and something happened to the one on the far end, and it looks like it's been broken off, so I don't know if it's going to make it. So I may only have 2 hazelnut plants left. I ended up with a dozen raspberries. I did have 15 to begin with. I'd ordered 12. They sent me 15. Only 3 lived, and I bought 9 more. So we'll see. The one in the middle on the far side actually has a couple of bunches of little green raspberries on it. So anyway, so we'll go back to the trellis, or to the tunnel. And this was where the cauliflower was. I bought those plants. And here's some Swiss chard. I started a lot of Swiss chard from seed, and I just had plants and I just stuck it everywhere. I figured that things like kale and Swiss chard are easy plants to start, and even if I don't eat them, they haven't really gone to waste, because I pull them up, I put them in the compost pile, and I think they're pretty plants. The kale in here was absolutely gorgeous earlier, before I cleaned up the bed. It was getting in the way of the gourds. But kale is one of those that, I think it's a beautiful plant, and I can only eat so much kale. These gourds on this end are supposed to be the regular loofahs, and then these gourds are supposed to be the egg gourds, the ones that look like little white eggs, although I think they're going to get a little bit bigger than the size of an egg, because here's one right here, and it looks like it's going to be bigger than any of the eggs my chickens lay. And I have lots of blooms, but I also have lots of plants, so I hope that I see some gourds out of it. Be nice to get some of the dinosaur gourds. These are my sunflowers, which are doing way better than I thought they were going to. This is my corn patch, and this 4 rows, the bigger 4 rows are half and half. The stuff on this end is glass gem. It's a dent corn, it's not a sweet corn, and the stuff on the other end is sweet corn, and it's supposed to be Bantam sweet corn, so I wouldn't have thought that it would get much bigger than this. I don't know how tall the Bantam gets, or the glass gem gets, but it's like an heirloom that I got from someplace, I don't remember the name now. These next 6 rows are sweet corn, the same Bantam sweet corn on the other half, the far half, and the near half, the first 2 rows, or 3 rows, are green dent corn, and the other 3 rows are blue. So we'll see how that goes, because like I said, that's one of those things, it's not time sensitive. It dries on the ear, and I won't have to worry about picking it at the right time. Okay, here's the outside of the gourd trellis. It's looking really pretty. I just hope it has something on it. This is the corn that I hope makes it. This is the corn that I'm supposed to be raising for Jessica, and it's a special Native American heritage 8-row blue corn. It's a dent corn, and she's going to use it in a demonstration later in the year. She didn't have time this year. Things happened and she wasn't able to grow it, so she was asking if people could volunteer to grow some for her, and I told her that I would, and I sure hope that I got it in time, because it was one of the last things that got planted from seed, and now it's been dry ever since I planted it, but so far so good. I've got watermelon on that far side in those hills, and then there's zucchini. There's one ball zucchini hill, and then I've got acorn squash, which I don't know what's up with it, but it's not coming up. The zucchini evidently can grow without rain or moisture of any kind, but acorn squash evidently not. These are some more green beans. They might be yellow, but they're green beans that I planted. Again, these marigolds are all ones that I started from seed earlier, and I've just put them out here in the along the asparagus patch. This is what I'm really happy and proud of, is this asparagus patch. I just hope that next year the deer don't get to it and eat it before I can get a chance to eat some. I put a couple of small pear tomatoes, the yellow pear, cherry tomatoes, in with them. I didn't think that they would get so big that they would bother the asparagus. I might be wrong on that, but evidently it is a good thing to plant tomatoes and asparagus together, because the tomatoes keep some bug away from the asparagus. So this is the east part of my garden, I guess you could say. So I'll step back and just pan around like this. So when people ask me how big my garden is, I have no idea, because I've got it everywhere, which just means it makes it harder for me to mow. This is the artichokes I planted. I started these from seed, and I ended up with 9 plants that made it. And I've got them planted here on the what would normally be the wettest part of this patch, but like I said, we haven't had rain for a while, and so they seem to like it a whole lot better now that they don't have so much rain or moisture. This is my Jerusalem artichokes, which I know that some people would probably be horrified at the size of it, because I've had people, after I planted them, tell me, oh my God, once you have those, you can't get rid of them. So, I mean, we'll see. If they spread, they got lots of room to spread. I don't care. This is the sunflowers. I can't wait till they start blooming, and it looks like there's a number of them that have some pretty good seed heads started on them. These were supposed to be like 10 or 12 feet tall, and I put them here to act as a windbreak to keep the corn from getting blown over. This is one of the hairy balls plants. So I hope that it has enough room here, and I hope that it makes it. I think I have a total of 13 of them, and I still have to get some of them planted. Anyway, so that's that part of the garden. And the chicken house again.